Welcome to Where There's a Wills.
There's a play.
I'm Ian, your make a bucksy casual gamer.
I'm Stacey. I am your non-gamer gamer.
And we are here today with another initial impressions of Cover Your Kingdom from Grandpa Beck's Games. This was designed by Jeff Beck, plays 2 to 8 players in 25 to 40 minutes. So, what is Cover Your Kingdom all about? In royal decree, you have been proclaimed the ruler of your very own magical kingdom. Congratulations! There's just one small little issue with your magical kingdom. They are completely devoid of magic.
Yeah, no magic.
Not very magical. Fortunately, there is a multitude of magical creatures searching for a new kingdom to call home. Good. We're going to need some magical creatures if we want magic.
I was concerned about that.
Convince them to join your kingdom to restore its magic by settling clans of creatures or by recruiting, aka stealing clans from your rivals' kingdoms. Each creature that dwells in your kingdom adds to its magic. The ruler with the most magical kingdom at the end of the noble contest is crowned the most noble and supreme majesty of magical might. If it were only so easy.
I just stole it so it was easy.
Oh. So in Cover Your Kingdom, you are going to be, like I said, recruiting magical creatures to make your kingdom magical. So let's take a look at the theme. All right. What do you think about the theme of this one? She still has her mini crown on. I'm going to see how long it takes before it falls off, honestly. All right. So, not very long. All right. So the theme of this one, I think this one comes through very well. This is the spiritual successor to Cover Your Assets, in which you were trying to make the most money, basically. This one, you're trying to gain the most magic. I think this one really comes through well as far as you have a kingdom and you are recruiting or settling or doing stuff to entice different magical creatures to come into your land, and whoever has the most, at the end wins. And I think the theme in this one comes through really well with the magical creatures and the names of the magical creatures and some of the special creatures that we'll talk about. So I think the theme in this one comes through very well.
I really enjoy the theme of this one. First, I was like, because But then as I went through all the cards and actually read what was on the cards, they're very punny. They are. They're just fun. They're fun cards, and they do bring a little magic as you play along as well.
So yeah, so theme in this one, and you're gonna see some really funny stuff here in just a minute on the art. But yeah, I think the theme in this one of making your kingdom the best it can be does come through pretty well. Components. Well, the components of this game are a large deck of cards of different creature types. There's clanning creatures, creatures for hire, wild creatures. There's some extra. Oh, you got your ruler's crown, your ruler crown, your player aids cards with advanced mode stuff on it. There's some tokens for advanced play. You got your rule book, and then you have your
starter board,
your kingdom powers, or your kingdom boards. Okay, your kingdom boards. So each kingdom does have a power for. So I think each one of these. So there's some different powers if you're playing advanced mode. But yeah, so not a ton of components, and there is one blank creature card, which you can make your own creature on and throw it into the game. So I think that's a cool little addition to it. Yeah, and then as they point out in the rulebook, there's 237-ish totally awful puns, which we will look at some of them as we look at the cards. All right, so not a ton of components. As with Grandpa Beck's games, they're pretty compact. This is one of their bigger boxes. So this box actually is the size of 2 of their normal size boxes. So you can store them and you can put 2 of their normal size boxes on it. They've got a couple games that are this size. So yeah, it's a pretty small box.
Yep. So when you first open the box and you have the 3 decks of cards, they are organized by point value, and so you do have to mix them up when you first.
Well, I don't think they were. They were. No, there was stuff random. No, they were randomly in there. There was like a whole set. There was like four or 5 cards, and then it was like the same 4 or 5 repeated. But they were kind
So
of
you did
randomly in
have
there.
to mix them up quite well before you got started. So just get your fingers ready to start shuffling.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking mainly about the 2-player, which we'll talk about. You take some stuff out. All right. Moving on to artwork. All right. Artwork in this one.
It's pretty fun artwork.
Yeah. We'll start just with the basic. This is the player board. All the player boards look the same.
They
There's
just have
one
different names.
Yeah, just different names. There's some fun names and little backgrounds on the kingdoms, which tell you which magical creatures like to be there. It doesn't do anything for them. Maybe on the backside it does. There's an advanced mode, which we have not played. But then here's some of the art. So some of the cards. So you have your Vulcans. So you got Vulcans from Star Trek, and you got Ents from Lord of the Ring. And then they have some funny puns. So this one says, "You could say that I'm an enterprising fellow." Ha ha ha.
I didn't even get that one.
Or, "I'm rooted in 2 different worlds." Ha ha ha.
He's part tree.
Well, also Lord of the Rings and Star Trek, 2 different worlds. But rooted, yeah. And then you've got this one. This one you'll notice. So these ones, this is one of the ones that is
glary up there. You.
Sorry.
That's okay. There you go.
This, yeah, no, but don't. Okay. So these ones that have just a gem on them, that is the clanning creatures. Those are the ones that you can place directly on your board, which we'll talk about later. This one is a wild. This is a Cerber Russell Terrier. So the Cerberus from the Underworld. He's got 3 heads. That's the 3-headed dog from the Underworld, Cerberus, and he's a Russell Terrier. So Cerber Russell Terrier. They must have just had so much fun combining things because these are hilarious. And this one says, "Must lick all the faces." So this is a wild. It can be used as any color when you're making pairs. Then there's cards like this that have just random symbols on them. These are creatures for hire, and these give you some extra abilities. So this is a Minotaur. So it says, "You shall not pass. Sorry, just doing my job. Just doing me job." Here's a Spydra. So there's another, so a spider hydra. Another wild. And here's some of the other ones. These are ones we had to take out. So a Yogi Yeti says, "Now, who are you calling Scruffy?" Cyclops. The Cyclopses are all sad. They're really sad. That one says, "If only I had 2 eyes, I could cry twice as much." Oh, dang. Wow. Then you got Pixies. He's got more Dragons. Yeah, they're very braggadocious. He's like, "Oh, I've got a bit of gold. Actually, loads of it. Also, a Pixie Bank." So, how about a Clacken? Tap dancing Kraken? A Hentar? A unique horn. So each one of the unique horns has a different horn. This one has a
plunger.
No, that one's a lollipop.
Plunger?
Just pops it. It's a lollipop, and that one's got a bubble thing on it.
Bubble wine.
And then you got a Pegasus. So it's got a peg leg. It's a Pegasus with a peg leg, and each one of them has a different peg leg. And then you've got the Leprechaun Man, who's just trying to sell you different things. See? 4-leaf clovers, authentic lucky charms for sale. A plunger, genuine unicorn. Haha, 'tis much to be man. One of the unique horns has that. So, what do you think of the art in this one?
I like this one. It's very playful. Sika likes it as well.
Yeah.
So, it goes really well with the theme of the game, I think. And each of the cards has, not each of the cards, but the ones with just the numbers on them, also has a card up in the corner that tells you what part of your board you can play them in. So like the yogi, what's he called?
The Yogi Yeti.
He's in the mountain, so that's kind of obvious that he belongs in your mountain region on your board. But we'll go over that as well. But so they're multi-use cards. Eh?
No.
I'll get that straight one of these days.
They only do one thing.
But yeah.
So,
but I like it.
Yeah, the artwork is hilarious. The way they combine things and were able to like make the different creatures just hilarious, and the names on them are really funny. We can show you one of the other special ones here. This is the mob goblins. They give you a little extra ability as well. So, so the way they combine creatures and the way they are drawn, and then each one, some of them have very unique, like the unique horns and the the leprechaun man are all trying to con you into buying different things. And then the which one was it called? The Peg Legacy, which took us forever to figure out actually how to say and realize, oh, it's peg leg. It's a Pegasus with a peg leg. Each peg leg is a different things, and then their little pun on it kind of goes with the peg leg. So yeah, I think the artwork on these is just hilarious. It's but still cutesy and still very magical and kind of feeling and stuff. So I love the artwork in this game. It is hilarious. Yes. And even the backs of the cards, they've got a lot of the creatures in as constellations. So backs of the cards have constellations. So that is the artwork. Now down at the table for setup. So we're going to briefly talk about 3 players and up. So in 3 players and up, every person will get 1 kingdom, and then each player gets, I think it's 6 cards. So each player gets 6 cards, and then the first player gets the ruler's crown to the ruler's crown to the ruler. And in order to choose the ruler, you choose the person who smells the best. So that is the ruler, and that is the first player. In basic setup, you remove the tokens, you ignore the kingdom powers. That's only for advanced rules. But that's pretty much the setup. And then you will have the rest. Once everybody gets 6 cards, you'll have the rest of the deck here, face down, that you can draw from and discard. Now, for a 2-player game, it is set up quite differently. You still have your 2 kingdoms, but you have this extra kingdom board. You have this extra kingdom board here that you place like this underneath it, and you place the Hentar token just to remind you. So in a 2-player game, only horse creatures can go down there, and we'll talk about that when we're talking about how to play the game. But only horse creatures. So for setting up, you just take an extra board and you place the Hentar token here, and that is how you set that up. And then you have this extra little area up here, which is called the Drafty Inn. You place, so at the beginning of when you set up, you deal 6 piles of 7 cards for a 2-player game. Each person takes a pile. The other 4 piles become the Drafty Inn, and the top one on top of the deck gets flipped over. Now, if you ever have any of these creatures for hire on top, you simply put it at the bottom, flip a new one.
Yep.
Yep. So, and then you flip a new one over. So, because you can't start with one up there, because if one comes up there, we'll talk about something happens during the game. Those give you special abilities and different things. So yeah. So actually, you shuffle it back into the pile. So you shuffle it back into the pile and watch it come up again. Nope. Okay. So there you go. So that is the setup for a 2-player game. It's just slightly different. You have this extra kingdom mat, and you have 4 of the decks that you dealt out. Like I said, you do 6 piles of 7, and then each person takes one. You take the other 4 up here. It becomes the Drafty Inn, where you can basically draft them by trying to recruit them, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So there is the setup for the game, and then the rest of the pile goes right here in the middle that you can draw from. Moving on to gameplay. All right. The gameplay of this game is each person has a set of cards. So you can see here's my set of cards here. And when you play, you can do one of 5 actions. You can settle. And settling means you are basically putting a pair of magical creatures into your kingdom. So you can settle by pairing a clanning wild creature or a wild creature, so any of the ones with numbers, along with another one from either your hand or from the top of the discard pile when there's a discard pile. So if I'm going to start, I could take my 2 leprechaun men. You see, they go into the lowlands. So you have the highlands and the lowlands. And I could place them right here in my lowlands. That is my first action. I could also recruit. When you recruit, you are recruiting from up here. So let's say I didn't want to take my leprechaun man and put them there. So maybe I want to recruit. So when you recruit, you are recruiting from the drafty inn. In the drafty inn, I could play my leprechaun man and then play that to try to recruit him. Now, what Stacey can do, because this is recruiting and not settling, is she can try and recruit him by playing a card, and then she could either play the same card or she could play a wild, and then I am going to play that to show that I can still take it. Whoever takes it now gets all of them into your kingdom. So that now got me 4 cards instead of 2. Usually you can only put 2 into your kingdom. Okay. The third thing you can do, and take that back, is I could recruit this, and let's say Stacey's like, it's not worth trying to steal. Okay, I could put that in there. So then the third action you have is to add. So anybody who's played Cover Your Assets, this is a slightly different thing with this game, is you can actually add to. So actually, when I took this, I was supposed to flip this up. So when I take that, I'm supposed to flip that up. So I can actually add to the top one on any one of my piles. So I could add my other leprechaun man, and now I've got 3 in this pile. Okay. And then you could also discard. So let's say I didn't want to do any of that yet. Put that back. Let's say I didn't want to do any of that, and I'm like, you know what? Well, that's not a good one to do. Because it's up there. But let's say I discard this. I could discard that and draw a new card. Okay. Oh, that was good too, because there's a wild there. Okay. So I could discard that and draw a new one, or I could hire. And when I hire, I can hire one of my. So I've got this special creature for hire. This allows me to use its ability, and then I discard it into the retired pile. So there's a separate pile for these. So those are your actions, and I think I missed. So when you recruit, so I can settle, so I can recruit from there, but I can also recruit from Stacey's pile. So if Stacey has a set of cards here, or let's say I took my turn. Okay, let's say she had that, and then oh, I don't have anything. So hold on, let's do this. Let's say I had done this turn. So I took this. Stacey decided not to steal or not to try and recruit them. She could kind of recruit them because it's recruiting. And then let's say my second action was this. At the end of my turn, I draw back up to 7 cards. This was flipped over. So let's say Stacey wants to recruit. She could recruit from here, but she could also recruit the top set on one of mine. So she's going to play her Leprechaun Man. I can block it if I want to. I could block it with this wild, but that's a pretty big number for 15 points, and I'm not going to worry about it. So then what happens is Stacey actually steals that. So she recruits them. She doesn't say, she recruits them as they go, but really you're stealing. So that is similar if you've played Cover Your Assets, where you can try and get the top asset off of somebody's pile. The difference with this is you, especially in a 2-player game, in a 3 and up, you have 2 different kingdoms or 2 different lands in your kingdom people can take from. In a 2-player, you have 3. Okay, so now Stacey, that was Stacey's first action, so she gets another action. So what she can do is, so now she played a Yogi Yeti. Because there's more than one Yogi Yeti up there, she can actually recruit both of those. Now, I can try and block that.
I didn't draw back up to 7, but that's okay.
You don't yet.
Oh.
It's still your turn.
Okay.
Okay, so this is your second action.
Oh.
So I can try and block that. So I could say, nope, I want the Yogi Yeti. And she could decide if she wants to block it again or not, if it's worth it to her. Doesn't look like she. So I'm going to take that. And now I've got a nice pile here. These 2 flip over. And now she draws back up to 7. And then I draw back up to 7. And that's how your turns go. You keep on going back and forth, recruiting, settling, adding, discarding, or hiring special abilities. So like this one is Hypnogriff. So it's my turn. So I can say blindly take 3 creatures from another ruler's hand, then return 3 creatures. So I could take 3 from her. So I could play this. And I'm just going to take 3 random creatures. Since we're just playing, I'm not even going to worry about it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, look, I got a Hypnogriff again. And then I'm going to give her 3. So I'm obviously going to probably try and give her
the low 5s.
The low ones.
Oh, that was nice.
Although I did give her a pair, so.
That was nice.
But that's because I'm just grabbing. So that would be one of my actions would be to hire. So I hired him. Now I could, because I got this from her, I could play, or I get this. So I could play that again. I could do that again because I can hire again. You can do the same action twice. This Grumdal's Elves removes a clan atop another ruler stack from the game. Can't be countered. So I could play this. I could hire him, take that whole stack that she got earlier. It comes out of the game. So in this case, you put it underneath the elf and you put it in this side because it's out of the game. And there are your turns. So there's 5 different actions on your turn. Settle with a pair of clanning creatures from your hand with another from your hand. So remember, the clanning creatures are the ones that have the... That wasn't the best one to choose because that one's green. That have the gem with the number on it. Those are your clanning creatures. Or, so you could place it if you have 2 clanning creatures in your hand that match up like we showed. Or you could do it with a wild. So I could do like this. I could do a Kraken and a Spydra together. I could do a Spydra and this Kraken together as one turn and then place my other one on top. So you can settle or you can recruit. So this is actually recruiting. So settling is pairing one from your hand with another one from your hand, or pairing one from your hand with the discard pile. Recruiting is recruiting from another person's kingdom in a 3 to 8 player game. In a 2-player game, you can also recruit from the drafty in. So you're basically drafting a card from up there. If you do recruit either place, the other person gets a chance to block it. So in a 3 to 8 person game, if you're trying to basically steal from some other kingdom, they can block it. You can go back and forth. Whoever finishes with the final card gets them all. Same thing up here, though. If I'm trying to draft basically or recruit one of these random ones up here, the other person can still try and block it and take it instead. The third is add. So if you have a card in your hand that you can add to one of the top ones, you add it to that. You can discard to draw a new card, or you can hire one of these special ones. One thing I want to say is when you play something into your hand. So let's say I had some Yogi Yetis in my kingdom. When I play the next set of Yogi Yetis, I don't put them here because this is a new set, so you will offset them. So the only time you can add to them is if you add one card as your action. Otherwise, if I'm going to settle, I'm going to have to put them offset from each other. So there are the actions. At the end of your turn, you draw back up to 7 cards, and then everybody else in clockwise order draws back up to 7 cards. At the end of the game trigger ends when the deck of cards is empty, and then everybody plays until they have no cards in their hand, and then you just add up your point totals, and that whoever has the most points wins the game. Replayability.
I think is huge. Just because of the amount of cards that you do have and the different specialty cards that you have that will always come up in a different order. Now, if you want variability, it's going to be the same way to play it unless you have more people. This plays up to 8 people, I think.
Yeah.
So I would think with more people, it would have a lot more replayability possibly. But opposed to 2 people where you're just choosing from one person or the other, you don't have a lot of people to steal from. But other than that, I think that this is a easy game to get out to just play over and over if you want to.
Yes.
It plays quickly, so you can get a couple games in
for sure.
In one night if you wanted to.
Yeah. I think there's going to be quite a bit of replayability. Only because I've played Cover Your Assets a lot, and the game plays different with different player counts. I mean, it plays the same but different. And this adding in the double lands in your kingdom and like, okay, now I have 2 places. Well, now I can steal from 2 different places. In a 3 to 8 person game, or 6 to 8. I think if you have 6 to 8, I think it was. Um, you can only steal from people that are 2 away from you, so you can't steal from everyone. So I think player count is going to make that big because you aren't going to be able to steal from everyone or recruit from everyone. The way the cards come up gives this very replayability like Cover Your Assets does. I've played Cover Your Assets. We've played it at 2 player. I've played it at 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I've played whatever the biggest player count at Cover Your Assets is at my board game club at school. This is a game from my board game club at school that the kids who have really loved Cover Your Assets really want to learn. So I wanted to learn it over my spring break so that I could teach it when we got back from spring break. I think there's going to be a lot. There's also multiple different ways to play this game. So there's a quick start guide. So if you've never played this or Cover Your Assets, you can simplify the rules down. So that is one way to play, to learn it. There's the advanced mode, which adds some tokens and some powers. So that right there adds some huge replayability. If you're getting like, okay, this feels very samey, throw in that advanced mode, do some different things. And there's some other modes there's some other things you can do in this as well. So there's some different ways that you can play the game. So there's some different advanced rules. There's constellation prizes. Um, so there's some different constellation prizes. There's kingdom power. So it looks like there's a couple different modes. So you could play probably with one of them or both of them. So that's like basically 3 different ways you can play if you play just with the constellation or just with the kingdom powers or both. So that adds variability. So that's 4 different ways: base game or any combination of the expansions. So I think this game is going to have a lot of replayability. And like Stacey said, with the large deck of cards and the way they come up, yes, the gameplay is going to be the same. You're trying to do sets, but the way you're doing things in when you're trying to, okay, when can I try and steal from someone, or when am I going to use this ability, or when am I going to use this ability, or when am I going to do this, or am I going to take, like in a 2 player game, am I going to take from here, am I going to play stuff down, am I going to discard? There's a lot of variability there. So I think this game has quite a bit of replayability before we get old. And like I said, if the base game starts getting old, throw in one of the expansions, throw in the other expansion, throw in both expansions. So I really like this. I think there's going to be a lot of replayability with this one. I think the kids are going to love this one personally. Just the added little bit. We won't do advanced mode at school, but just the added little thing with the little critters and stuff. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, back big for our final thoughts.
It took me a second to get used to this game. Just because I haven't played cover your assets in a while. So we went over the rules, we watched a video, and I was still confused with the differences on how to play my hand. But once I got it. And then it was very easy to play after I realized, I had my aha moment and realized how to actually play the game. One thing that we did forget when we were talking about setup, I don't know if we talked about it, is that you do have to remove a certain number of cards from the deck.
For 2 players, yes. I thought, yeah. So for 2 players, this you take out like 2 of each one of the
character.
What are they called? The planning creatures, and then you take out some of the wild creatures and some of the creatures for hire. There's one that you completely took out, and that's probably because it only works with more than 2 people. So yeah, so you do take some of the cards out for a 2-player game. Oh, the Minotaur.
Yeah.
Because your it doesn't work with a 2-player game.
So the deck is actually bigger than what we have for just 2 players. So it gives even more variability and replayability for 3 players and more.
There's 116 clanning creatures, 15 wild creatures, and 10 creatures for hire. So you're looking at 130, 100, over 140 cards.
Yep.
So
yes, but I like the little crown that they came up with that shows whose turn it is. So you have your little crown that you pass back and forth. I like the theme. I like the artwork. I like how it plays once I got the hang of it. And you can score a lot of points with this game.
Yeah.
Depending on how you use your wilds. You can pair your 20 points up with a couple 15ers or a 40 pointer up with a couple of 15ers, and and a wild in there as well, and you can end up with one hand that's well worth,
Yeah.
50 points.
Speaking of the wilds, real quick, while I brought that, one thing I didn't mention is so you can try and steal with just the wilds. The Spydra does count as two creatures though. So if you use this to try and steal, someone has to offset it with two cards of the same thing that you were trying to steal, or another Spydra, or a Cerber Russell Terrier, along with a card that you were trying to steal, or two Cerber Russell Terriers. So this does count as two creatures. So that does add a nice little okay. I don't think they're gonna have it. Like they need to. Stacey actually at the end of the game that we played, she played this. I only had two cards in my hand. It was a safe bet that if she played this, I wasn't going to have a wild and the exact card of the type of creature she was trying to steal, or two of that type card, or two wilds. So it was a very safe bet to have that at the end. So just wanted to mention that when you're stealing.
But I like this game. It's fun. So irritating when somebody steals my cards. Just. But then you make your next move and you steal them back if you can. So it's
there's definitely some. This game has a lot of take that, and the cover your assets already had take that, which makes it kind of fun. This with the creatures for hire adds even more take that, because those give you some abilities to take even more than what you might be able to normally take. So that it does add some more take. So if you do not like take that games at all, I would say this is not for you, because there is a huge take that aspect to this game. Because in order to win, you are going to have to take other people's stuff, because you can't let them keep piling stuff. You have to try and steal from them. You have to try and steal from them if you think you can win the recruitment battle.
I'm a nice player, and trying to be mean during a game is very difficult for me. And I think that was a lot of my aggravation when I was first trying to play this game, is that I had to overcome that niceness and try to be mean.
Yeah, and we are not, as you would call, hate drafters or hate players when we play games. I know there's games out there that people purposely hate draft to screw other people over. We don't play like that. We don't like playing like that. This is a game that forces you to do that, so it does take both of us out of our comfort zone a little bit. But when you realize that is part of the game, and you have to do that game in order to actually win, like that is how you have to play this game. You have to try and take some things at some point. You have to at some point try to take some things. There's a lot of games out there where people do it, where I don't. And but yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. I don't know where it's going to rank on our ranking. At some point we're gonna rank the collection. We have a couple more Grandpa Beck's games that we have to learn, that we just got in, and probably I think there's one more at school as well that we Antiquity Quest we have to learn. We just got that 3-2-1 countdown, which is their newest one, and also the treasure one. There's something man's treasure.
I don't think it's gonna be on here. Nuts and Mutts?
No, because that only plays 3 and up, and there's no 2-player variant. Nope, I've looked at that one. That's one of the few we can't get. So we only own ones that can play it 2. This one has a 2-player variant. I have it at school. But yeah, I really like this one. Like I said, I don't know where it's gonna rank on our rankings as far as we've played a lot of Grandpa Beck's games now, almost all of them, and like I said, we have a few more. But this one is very enjoyable. I do like the creatures for hire. It does add a nice little change to cover your assets. It does complicate things a little bit more, so it is a little heavier. It's not super heavy. I think I looked it up. It was like a 1.81 or something on Board Game Geek. So it does add some things. The 2-player variant with the extra little land in your kingdom is quite interesting, because of the fact that it gives another place where people can steal from.
Helps you get through the cards quicker, I think, so it doesn't prolong the
I don't
game.
know if it does or not. It just gives you a third place to place it.
Yeah.
It gives you a third place where like, oh wait, what am I going to cover up? But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I love the artwork in it. I love the puns in it. It's fun to just kind of read those. So yeah, so this is another hit from Grandpa Beck's. I don't think Grandpa Beck's has missed with us at all. This is definitely another one that is really enjoyable. I can't wait to teach it to the group of kids who have wanted to learn it. Although I think there's a few less of them now since Girls on the Run started up, unfortunately, that are still there. But I will teach it to a group of kids probably on Tuesday, and I think they're going to enjoy it. So, yeah. Anything? Any last final thoughts before we
What
sign
was our
off?
final score to the other game that we played?
The one we played?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You whooped me by like 200 points.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You just had to bring that up. All right, everybody.
That's all I had.
That was our initial impressions on Cover Your Kingdom by Grandpa Beck's. Once again, this has been Where There's a Wills.
There's a play.
I'm Ian.
I'm Stacey.
And we'll see you next time.
At the table.
Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below.